Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Build Your Vision podcast. I'm excited for this episode just because this episode has a great story. There are so many applicable pieces of it, and it's in all honesty quite relatable. So I think you're really going to enjoy it. Plus, Evan's just a really great and funny guy. And who is Evan? You might be asking. Well, I'm glad you asked. He is the guest on today's pod. He is also the founder and owner of the Rare Perspective LLC, a photography company and videography company that's based here in Maryland. Evan takes us on his journey of moving from the corporate scene with a job in cybersecurity to making his move to entrepreneurship, a full-time entrepreneur at that, and becoming his own boss and making even more money than he was before. And we address all the common questions that you might have in this. And if we don't address it, you can message us on Instagram or on the website or wherever you want to message us on the comments, something like that. But when, why, and how did he do this? And of course, all the challenges that come in between, the pit stops and the lessons that he learned along the way. Make sure that if you listen to this episode, if you listen to this podcast, that you don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who you think might need to hear this information. Post it on your social media. You can put it on your story and tag the podcast at Build Your Vision Pod on Instagram. This is how we grow the show. This is how we touch as many lives and impact as many people as possible. Lastly, this episode will also be available on YouTube tomorrow if you're listening to it when it's released on Tuesday. So if you want to watch it instead of just listening to it, you can do that as well. I will link the channel in the show notes. Without further ado, let's get into this episode. Let's cue that outdated music that I should have replaced a long time ago. That's still the theme song, but I'm going to get to it eventually. I still really like the song though. All right, let's go.
Loading.
Read all about it.
It's a case study for success.
Be teachable.
What better way to learn than to just ask?
The learning process becomes a journey.
Turning dreams into realities.
Part of execution is totally believing whatever you're doing is going to work.
What are your passions and what are your gifts? And that's where it really starts.
Chances are for taking. Take a chance on yourself.
Any and everyone is capable of being a leader.
You're not going to have all the answers immediately.
Wow.
Mentors to expose you to things that you otherwise wouldn't know.
It was all I thought about and dreamed. Like I would literally get up in the morning, practice, because I knew the time would come.
Just do it.
My name's Evan Morsell. I own the Rare Perspective. It's a production firm, so we do all things digital, from filmmaking to photography to strategy, ideation when it comes to businesses and brands. What I've been kind of noticing as I unpack, my time working for myself now, I'm noticing that people don't hire me necessarily for my product. They don't hire me for my filmmaking skills or for my photography skills. Although a lot of people would say that, they're of quality and they're very good. But what people are valuing is my ability to take their idea, to take their concept, to take their why, to take their story, and to package it into a system, or to then deconstruct it in a way where we can create some steps that we need to take to inform their client, to inform their target audience on why they should invest, why they should support, why they should engage with their brand or business. And it just so happens that the medium that we typically use is a photo or a video. And that's what I've been up to, man.
Brett, that's something that you just said right there that so many people will miss in that industry. That's something that everyone's kind of looking for. It's like almost going to a barber. You want like a barber that knows your head,
right?
That knows how to cut your hair.
Yeah.
So when someone could take that vision, that story that you have, and put it together in a way that looks nice,
yeah,
that's something that's really valuable. So no wonder you're doing so well.
Thank you.
And I kind of just want to back up, rewind to kind of like, okay, we know your name is Evan Morsell, but like, where did it start? Like, from where did that love for the creative? Did you always want to do this, or take us back to the beginning?
So for those who are watching on YouTube, slightly out of frame, there's a keyboard behind you. Okay, yeah, and I think my creative juices started flowing when I started playing the piano.
Got you.
Started taking lessons in 5th grade. My music teacher kind of blew my mind away when I heard my first chord, if you will. Like, I mean, we hear chords all the time in church, but when I saw how she was actually putting the music together, that's what got my mind working. I was like, I want to take piano lessons. So from 5th grade to 10th grade, I was taking classical lessons. And I noticed that I always appreciated movies and music. I found I noticed how music can affect a film. When a score comes in during a scene where there's a lot of suspense, or if there's something sad that's happening, all of a sudden here come the strings. I loved that harmony that was happening between both the visual and the audible. So I had the music side, but I wanted to get into this visual side. I took AP photography in high school, and that's when I learned how to take your simple point and shoot camera and really optimize it, how to leverage and manipulate the settings in a way to create a beautiful image, regardless of what camera you're holding in your hands. That's why you see people taking these iPhones or taking, their smartphones and creating images that you would put up on your wall at home. Yeah. It's all about understanding your tools. So I started to really understand cameras at that point. But where things really kicked off was a combination of college and postgraduate, if you will. My roommate's from Ghana, and he was a photographer when I met him, but he wasn't that serious. But I would always see him shooting. So, his name is Kwame. And I was like, Kwame, do you really know what you're doing? Because we always joke with each other. We ended up living together for 4 years in college. I went to the University of Maryland. So, I met him there at the Ocho, if you will. It was the 8th floor of our building. And crazy things happened there, but we don't have time for that today. He would shoot, his uncle would come, and he would bring different photography pieces of gear, different flashes and things for us to actually practice with. And as I started to practice, utilizing light and understanding light, and that's really all photography is understanding how to utilize light to your advantage to come up with, your creative image. Of course, you have to tell a story with what you're shooting, but exposure is all about lighting. As I practiced that, I fell in love with it even more. And I was stuck on photography for like 2 to 3 years.
This is in college?
This is in college. Okay. When I graduated, though, I met my wife, Sydney. And a few months after we met, we kind of went to a church that was just starting up because we like to help people. It's kind of something that we have in common. That's what brought us together. And as we're helping this church, I'm playing the piano for the church because that's something I've been doing since I was a kid. But the church decided that they wanted to keep up with the digital trends that are happening. Like we used to, in the church space, for those who are faith-based, you'll pass out like a pamphlet. That used to be the style that people would take. And they would hand out this pamphlet that was supposed to educate people on how, Jesus can change their lives. But now that looks like an Instagram account. Like that's the 2019 version. So like, Evan, how can we modernize our approach? I was like, you guys really need to put some videos up. So they're like, okay, well, the average age of this church was like 57, a whole bunch of old heads. And they're like, we don't know how to do that. And I was like, you take pictures. We know you're a photographer. Yeah. Why don't you just do the video? And I'm like, well, it's not that simple. Like photos don't move, So I had to learn how to be a videographer, how to be a filmmaker. And although I was just streaming services, my interest and my hunger for filmmaking grew as a result of telling the stories of what was happening there to then want to tell stories for everyone else.
Cool.
And that's kind of where we are now.
When you were in college, did you want to pursue were you taking photography classes in college?
Oh, bro, do you have time?
Dude, we have all the time in the world.
Okay, so I went to college under the impression, one, that I needed college in order to be successful.
That's a whole...
See what I'm saying? Yeah, that's the first detour. But I went to college wanting to major in computer engineering. Okay. I've always been good with tech. I was kind of the person, if you had an issue, hey, Evan, this isn't working, what should I do? I got those types of phone calls. Right, yeah. And I love computers. So I was like, you know what? I would love to build computers. I wanted to build smartphones. Okay. So that's what I originally went to school for. But I went to community college my first semester. my skills I learned at community college did not transfer when I went to the University of Maryland. Like calc at community college was not equivalent to calc at UMD. I actually went back to pre-calc.
Okay.
Once I found out what calc really was.
Okay.
And I'm going through this spiral of relearning and failing.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly kind of feeling as though I'm going 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. And what happened was my love for computers kind of dwindled away. And it made me start really thinking about what I really wanted to do in life. So I was like, I like helping people. That's always something that I've been passionate about, is helping others. And I like to work out. You know, like I was a fairly fit person at the time. I need to get back in the gym. But, you know,
You're still pretty fit, bro.
Hey, I try. Yeah. You know, I went to the International Spy Museum, and I'm getting off topic. I pursued kinesiology, which is like pre-physical therapy.
Right.
All right. That's what my major is in. If you look for my diploma, if you look it up anywhere, it's going to be kinesiology, public health, Bachelor of Science.
Okay.
I thought that I wanted to be a physical therapist. I thought that I wanted to take people through the phases of rehabilitation to take them from point A to point B so they could have something better to live for. And although that love was there, once I got my degree and I was filling out applications for PT school, and I've shadowed a couple PTs, I was like, I don't know if I can see myself doing this for the rest of my life.
Oh man, I know how that feels.
Yeah. But it's a hard place to be in because, you know, you've put in all this work. You've grinded for me, it was 4.5 years because I wasn't one of those people who graduated in 4 years. Right. It just didn't happen.
That's a common thing.
And, you know, I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, I have this degree that's really only applicable for this one field of study.
Right.
If I don't pursue it, it's like I almost even have a degree. So I met a guy and he was like, hey, Evan, you know, I know that you're good with computers. Because I still like to be that guy who, I was on that, it's weird. There's these phones that they run an operating system called Android. And and I was like, you know, I would manipulate those phones. You can root them, you can customize them. I really enjoyed that before I was brought to the light and I got an iPhone. But you know, he knew that I was the guy that you go to if you're having any issues. It's like, why don't you pursue cyber? It's really booming right now. All you need is a certification, and you can get a decent job, you know, fresh out of college. I was like, I felt like I gave up on computer engineering a little early. Let me see if I can rekindle the flame and see what cyber is about. So, you know, everything post-college, everything in life is about connections. My dad knew a lady. My dad was an entrepreneur. He knew a lady who owned her own cyber firm, and she got me into a week-long crash course on how to get my computer, my Security Plus cybersecurity computer certification, and for free. Right? There's power in connections, man. Listen,
it's all about who you know,
man. It's all about who you know. Like I was talking to one of my coaches, Pierre Quinn. I think he's actually on the show.
Yeah, he is.
And he was telling me, you know, 80% of jobs at a certain level are not posted online. It's all about connectivity. So, you know, through that connection, I was able to get this free certification that then opened up doors for me to get a secret clearance and to pursue a 3.5 year long career in cybersecurity. But from the moment of my first job in the cybersecurity space, there were signs, there were red flags that were showing that it wasn't for me. My first job, I had to work like 60 hours a week while being paid 40 hours, working overnight shifts and then being asked to come in, you know, 6 hours later in Virginia. I live in Maryland. It was like an 1.5 hour ride, both ways. Like traffic was just always there.
That's terrible. Yeah.
You know what I'm doing? I did that for, I think, 9 months and I hated it. You know, like, I knew that it wasn't my calling, but I just assumed that I was in the wrong space. I didn't think it was the wrong job. So I transferred to another position for another private company, and I'm working for them, and everything's kind of okay initially. But what I'm learning throughout this process is that cybersecurity is a lifestyle. You know, I mean, it's not like people take time off. There's no 9 to 5 for hacking, you know? Like when I go to sleep, that's when people typically attack. So you have to be able to wake up at 2:00 in the morning, respond to those alerts, notify the people in need. And it just wasn't the life for me. You know, there's some people who live, breathe, and sleep and eat, you know, cyber. That's what they want to do. But it wasn't compatible with what I wanted to do in the big picture, the macro of my life. And I'm constantly reminded of that every day when I drove an 1.5 hours to Fairfax, Virginia to go to this job. And over time, what I noticed was my love for telling stories was always there. That was the common denominator. Because what would happen is I would go to work and I wouldn't enjoy what I was doing. But I would have stories about what was happening outside of work that just happened in the workspace that I could share with other people. So I'm still able to execute that storytelling through the inconvenience space that I'm in, if you will. Yeah. That still kind of provided a silver lining, some icing on the cake. But it was around year 2 that I decided that I need to find an exit strategy. I need to find a way to wake up and do what I love, to share stories about people and their testimonies and why they're passionate about what they do full time. And it was around year 2 to year 3 that the exit strategy was completed, and I'm now full time in my business.
Man,
so
that's
where we are.
On so many things.
It's the back of the book.
One, you basically didn't need to go to college.
Thanks, bro. I still got student loans though.
Well, yeah, no, but that's a sad reality of most people, like in this country, and like the fact that you were able to get your certification in cybersecurity, like you got into that career path, and a well-paying career path, by the way. Yeah,
that's true, man. I was getting job offers throughout everything, like 150, 120, 130. That was like the common average.
So like, and then you did that, and like one thing that you touched on is that so many people struggle with. You have like these different passions. I don't want to say passions, but you're good at multiple things. Like you were good at tech. You were good at dealing with people. You were good at helping people. Yeah. You were good at music. You were good at physical therapy. You're fit. But that doesn't mean that you have to, like pursue all those things. Or you might feel like, oh, well, since I'm good at it, this is what I'm about to do.
Right.
And we kind of get bubbled in, oh, you're good at this, you're a musician, or you're good at this, you're a physical therapist, you're good at this, you're going to be a doctor or whatever. Yeah. And it's usually what I find is what you said is you found ways to keep telling stories even though you were in an environment that really wasn't conducive for you to do so. The thing that most people, or at least I find myself doing, I will always find myself finding a way to do the one thing that's like the backstory of what I'm passionate about, no matter where I am.
That's good.
So it's like, no matter what situation you are in, think about the thing that you probably do, like, no matter what.
Yeah.
And that's probably like the back thing. It might not be like a specific career path, but like telling stories. That's not like a career. I mean, I guess you could be a storyteller.
There are
like,
storytellers.
There's storytellers, but like you wouldn't go saying like, "What's your occupation?" Like, I'm a storyteller. I mean, you could, but that's not like a common thing.
No. That would catch somebody off guard. It's a great conversation starter.
That is a great conversation starter, but it's usually like these backline drives that like fuel different paths that we go into. That's really the passion that we have. It's not the actual occupation, the actual act of doing something itself. It's something underlying in there. Yeah. But that's so true. And we could go forward in that story. So okay. You realize that, all right, this isn't for me. I need to get out. I need to get an exit strategy, and you found that.
Yeah.
How did you go about doing that, though? I want to know, because that could be a very hard step for people to do. So many different phobias going into that, trying to get out.
Yeah, bro. Like, I think about the movie when you say get out. Like, it was not easy. Like, I'm not going to be here and be fake and act as though I just sat down one afternoon with a notepad and paper and was like, I need to get out strategy.
Right.
Let me just think this up and execute it. It took some trial and error. So my get out strategy looked like taking L's and just not taking them as L's, but taking them as lessons learned. So the first thing that I realized that I needed to do was to develop connections. Connections are the key to everything. Being in the room. Just being in the right room can get you access to so many things. Being a part of conversations, having that first or second degree of connectivity with somebody else is huge. So I needed to figure out who I needed to talk to in order to even understand the industry. Like I've been exposed to the music side. I've been exposed to the fitness side, but I hadn't been exposed to the filmmaking and photography side. So I reached out to a guy named Chip Dizard, who's very popular in the DMV space as a wedding filmmaker and photographer. And he has a mentorship program. I was like, hey, I'm really interested in this. I'm really passionate about it. This is what I wake up, striving to do. Can you kind of bring me under your wing? And he was like, yeah, meet me at the following locations on these dates. And I would shadow him. And after maybe the second or third time shadowing him, I realized that when you keep things simple, that's when you have success. Oftentimes, my brain works in a way where I want to be so structured at times, and I want to have such an extravagant plan that I don't allow room or space for error. And that was kind of my kryptonite, if you will. early on in my get out strategy. Like I mapped out exactly what I wanted to do, but then life happened and it was like, we don't want to do it that way. So I had to first learn how to pivot, make leader shifts, as you will, as John Maxwell says, and adjust my plan. So the plan was, and I feel like I was just saying a lot, but I'm going to dial it in. I promise. This is scattered thoughts. So I needed to develop a reel or a portfolio, as most people will call it. I need proof of concept. I need people to see that my work is good and it's of quality and that it's something that people should want to invest in. And I realized I needed to identify what spaces I would want to create that portfolio in. So I like working with businesses and I also like working with families. So I started off doing, like the low-hanging fruit, the family photos, the lifestyle portraits, the product photography. And then that birthed into larger assignments. So filming, I was able to leverage my connections in the photography space for filming stuff. I met a guy named Jeremy Anderson maybe halfway into this endeavor. And he's a motivational speaker who often works with like Eric Thomas. For those who are in the motivational scene, you probably know who E.T. is. Yeah. And he was filming his Stay Ready conference. And during that conference, I noticed that there were other speakers on the tour. So what I did was when I saw the tour was coming to DC, I reached out to Eric Thomas's team in a DM, actually created an entire YouTube video that was pitching, me as being the guy who should capture this event for them. If you look up my name on YouTube, I actually left it up there just as like a reminder of where I used to be. So help yourself. You also probably come across some other stuff that is very humbling.
And your YouTube channel will be linked in the show notes. So.
I appreciate it, bro. So, I spent like 8 hours. I grew up in a town called Chesapeake Beach and it's on the water. So I was at the water around sunrise, down on the beach or the boardwalk, walking around with a camera in front of my face, kind of vlog style, explaining what value I could add to E.T. and his team. And, because I was a perfectionist at the time, I feel like I was never getting it right because I was nervous. I was never in this space before. And after like 4 hours, the light was no longer good for filming. So I called it a day. I went back and reviewed my footage. And I was like, this isn't going to cut it. Went back that afternoon for sunset, filmed for another 4 hours, and finally got something I thought I could work with, cut it up, finished it, and sent it off to E.T.'s team. I did not hear back from them at all for like 3 weeks. I'm sending follow-up emails. I'm not hearing anything. It's discouraging. I'm thinking like, I know they see my emails.
Right.
But, and this isn't a shot at E.T. He's a busy guy and he has a team, but I didn't know that at the time. So, I'm like, I need another plan. So I reach out to my mentor, Chip, again. And he's like, yo, I know E.T.'s mentee, Jeremy Anderson. Let me reach out to Jeremy's PR person and put in a good word for you. And, I'll get back to you. Like 7 minutes later, he's like, you got it. You can film for Jeremy. You can't film for E.T., but you'll be in the same space.
Right.
I was like, that's good enough for me. And he's like, yeah, you're going to do it for free, though. I was like, okay, that's cool. It's a lot of work, but I'm in the same room as E.T. Right. So, mind you, I've never done an event or a conference or anything like this before in my life. I film church services. Like that is my background. Right. And I take family portraits. So this is a completely green space for me. And when I get there, I have my equipment. I meet Jeremy. Actually, I drove out to his hotel the night before, like 11 o'clock at night when he got off the plane, just to kind of engage with him and make sure that he knew I was serious about this because he didn't know me. He was just going off the word of Chip. Right. Yeah. And at the time, I did not know that Jeremy had received over 25 requests for people to film for him prior to me sending him before Chip reached out. So the only reason that I got the opportunity was because of my mentor. So it's coming back to connections, which is just absolutely amazing, right? Like he trusted Chip so much that he would trust me. So it goes to show that, wherever you are in business, one, make sure that you're doing everything with integrity and that you're doing everything in a selfless state, So I meet Jeremy and he talks me through the game plan. He talks me through the vision that he wants for the film and we have a strategy. I was like, cool, I can work with this. This is safe. I go out the next day and I meet him. We're filming and I'm kind of channeling inspiration from other sources because I had never done this before. It's always to look for other sources of inspiration when you're new to a space. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Yeah. There's nothing new under the sun. You don't see us using things that don't look like tires for cars. Right. Like we've kept the tire model for a long time. We're not driving on blocks. So I get there, I film it. I'm nervous. I am so nervous. But this is the phase in my journey where I started to implement affirmations and visualization. I had to visualize what a successful shoot would look like. I couldn't let my shaky hands cause me to get bad footage, or I couldn't let doubt interfere with my ability to move confidently in a space that I hadn't been in. So by affirming myself, by visualizing what a good day would look like, it really got me through that day. In addition to working with a guy who's just great to work with, like Jeremy is easy to work with, very down-to-earth guy. You often think when you see people who have hundreds of thousands of Instagram followers that they may be kind of like on a different level than you, but people are people at the end of the day. It's one thing I learned, and lo and behold, I did really well on the shoot. He loved it. It helped him like raise he was able to touch like over 1 million students that year. Through content that was produced for that event.
It's incredible.
Yeah, man. So that was kind of like a really big confidence builder, and it was a huge step in my career as a filmmaker because it affirmed to me that I can shoot for anybody, right? If I can go into a space where I've never been to with people that I've never met, and film an event that I've never filmed or even anything remotely like it and succeed, there are very few things that you can't do at that point. So with that confidence, I was then able to step out and take on larger events. I was able to then, cold call or cold email people who I've never met with the ability to know that, hey, if they understand the value that I'm providing, they will want my services.
All right.
And I'm just going to close with this point because I know I've been going for a minute.
You're good.
All right. In February, actually in January, there's a guy at the startup church I was telling you about named Brother Brown.
Right.
And Brother Brown is a phenomenal artist, or he was a phenomenal artist. He drew a lot of landscapes in the county that I grew up in. And he was just renowned in the entire DMV. People wanted to do documentaries on him, everything. And I was like, hey, Brother Brown, I really enjoy your work and I would like to do a documentary on you about what you've done. His testimony was the fact that he's always been a passionate guy and he's always been very good at everything that he puts his hands on. And back in like the 80s, the 70s or the 80s, he worked for a construction firm, and he was in position to be the next leader of the firm at the top level. It was between him and another guy named Buddy, and Brother Brown was awarded the position rightfully. I mean, he deserved that place. But Buddy didn't want to let it go, and this guy named Buddy struck him in the back of the head with a metal pipe.
Whoa.
It didn't kill Brother Brown, but it did cause him to have recurring intermittent seizures for the rest of his life. But he could no longer drive, and he could no longer do some of the normal day-to-day functions that he was typically able to do. But he was able to draw, and because he can no longer work, because he can no longer drive, he has all this downtime, and that's when he really started to dive deep into his art side. And that's when he started creating these beautiful landscape pictures. And, when he shared that story with me in his house, I honestly started to tear up because I didn't know that's why he would have those seizures. Like all my life growing up, because he was significantly older than me, I knew that he would have seizures, but I didn't know what the cause was. And when I found that out, I was like, gracious, bro, like he was just trying to do his best. So I told him, I would love to feature in a documentary. And, any proceeds would go to him and his family. Unfortunately, Brother Brown passed away like 3 months later, and we never filmed the documentary. I was crushed. Went to the funeral, shared my remarks, saw the pain that the family was in because he impacted so many people through his work. And it kind of put a fire within me to never film or never leave a film on the table. Like I felt like I could have documented his story in those 3 months if I really was just like, I'm going to go after this. I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to procrastinate. Because I have that perfectionist gene within me, I often put things off longer than I need to. And this is still throughout my exit strategy approach. I'm like, that's when I was really finding myself, and telling people's stories is really what I was finding that I love to do. So he was going to be kind of like the template, like if I could give back to Brother Brown, I was like, this would be huge for not only, myself, but more so for him. It didn't happen. But I got an idea. I was like, Brother Brown is he was a successful black male, black artist. There have to be other successful black entrepreneurs, if you will, that are in the DMV that I can also tell the stories of while they're here. And that birthed the idea of the Black to Business series that I filmed on YouTube. And I just wanted to go around, find different people in different spaces and share their story on why they're passionate about what they do and why others, hopefully should invest in their passion projects that are now their businesses as well. Because it's challenging, for entrepreneurs in general. If you're not in a successfully corporate, made structure, it can be hard. And I started filming these stories. And as a result of filming each story, I developed a new relationship with every business owner. And this is kind of like my personal marketing, branding, outreach model, if you will. I haven't really shared this with anybody. So like outside of my coach. And the structure is meet people who are adding value in their respective spaces. Have them share their stories with you. Document their stories so that you can add value to other people. And as a result, value will be added to me. So, if you're doing anything for yourself, you're not going to be successful. You have to be in a selfless space. This is what you're doing. Exactly. So like you have the motto, like I have no doubt that by the end of the year where you will be compared to where you are now, like our minds won't even imagine. They can't even fathom what it'll be, bro. So I started doing that. And as a result of creating all of these relationships, business started coming my way. Out of the blue, I had a huge contract with a nonprofit organization that like it tripled my monthly income in one event. I was able to create a relationship with a restaurant company that has been a consistent source of income for me pretty much throughout this entire year. And, I'm working with law firms, and my entire hometown now wants me to come in and do content for them for an entire rebuild. Like all of this stuff is happening as a result of the relationships I'm developing through filming these conversations. Just simply allowing people to talk about themselves. People love to talk about themselves. I'm not sure if your listeners can tell, but I've been like talking about myself for a minute. But like, as a result of doing that, you're permeating these networks. Like, so the structure is film the conversation, cut the conversation or the podcast, release it to the public, and ask whoever your talent is to share it with their network. So now instead of it just being your space, you're also permeating their space. And then whoever in their space wants to share it permeates that space. So you're now increasing your reach and your engagement and your awareness all at one time by simply having someone share their why.
Yeah.
And that's what got me here. That's what allowed me to leave my job. That was my exit strategy.
That's how you really have to go about it. No one's gonna help you if they don't know.
Yeah.
You showed the value that you brought to someone else for free, by the way, the first time.
Yeah.
And then they saw what you were about, and then that in turn spread to them telling other people what you're about, and other people see that you're doing this with this person, and it kind of just keeps spreading and spreading.
Yeah.
And you kind of get your exit strategy that way. And that can apply for whatever you're doing. It doesn't even have to be anything creative, let's say. Exactly. I mean, it could be with anything. It could be like doing computers. In fact, maybe the industry that you left. If you start working on computers, start bringing value to people, they're going to share that. And then other people will see, okay, well, he's serious about doing this. And like, oh, well, can you do my computer? And blah, blah, blah. And it just keeps going and going. You have to show that you're doing something. You can't just like be so self-conscious that you just work on your own stuff by yourself and no one knows what you're doing, because it's super hard to scale that way. It'll take you twice as long.
We're talking about adding value, and I referenced John Maxwell, but you really can't add value to people until you truly value people.
Yes.
Okay. So, if you're trying to add value to people, but you're still doing it with the wrong intentions, it's going to be, people are going to read through that.
Yes.
And then furthermore, I'm working on a crowdfunding campaign right now for a product that's dropping into Whole Foods. And although, the digital space is where things are at, right? If it doesn't happen on Instagram, it didn't happen. The power of organic person-to-person relationships still trumps everything. So you have to have that fusion of both your digital community and your in-person community to really see great conversions.
Yeah. Did you hear about that story that came out this week about the girl on Instagram that like had like 2.46 million followers?
I think I heard about that.
And she couldn't sell 36 like items of clothing on her.
We're talking about that this morning.
Yeah,
people are buying followers out here, bro. Like,
dude, it's not.
You should invest in stocks instead.
Let's say that she didn't buy followers. Let's just say she didn't. Those are all organic followers. No, having followers and having fans are two different things.
Yeah.
So you can have as many followers as you want. If you don't have an organic relationship with those people, you're not interacting with those people. Those people aren't like your supporters. Doesn't matter how many followers you have on Instagram. So that goes same to you have to have the balance of organic in person, or it doesn't have to be in person, but organic face-to-face conversation relationships, as well as you putting it out to the masses as well, to kind of like 2x your reach or your influence or your impact. And you said something when you chose your mentor, right? Did you just you found him and you just went to him and was like, I want to shadow you, or did you like, oh, okay, yeah, because some people like, I don't know how to go about getting a mentor or a coach.
Well, it was easy for him. Like, Chip has it on his website. If you want to be mentored by him, you can apply. Like, it was that straightforward. But there are other mentors that I've acquired outside of Chip who did not have that cookie cutter of an approach. For example, my current coach, Pierre Quinn, he's a mentor to me. And the way that it all started with an ideation meeting. So usually I'm reaching out to established individuals who are in the space who offer this service. So, through his ideation meeting, we kind of created a relationship where I was like, hey, I need something on a more consistent basis. I need this coaching to be recurrent because life is consistently changing. Right. And that's how we kind of just had conversations that led to this mentorship that I receive. Another mentor that I've had in the past, his name is Michael Richardson, and I met him through church. So the people who I've reached out to that I haven't known in the past, usually it's through an in-person interaction, or it's an email. But I usually have the most success with in-person interactions. But it all comes down to humbling yourself and also understand that if they say no, they say no and you keep it moving. Like, it does not hurt for someone to say no to you. If anything, it makes you stronger. So, I shoot my shot all the time. Like, I need business. So I get no's, even if it's not mentorship, business-wise. Like, you can't be mad if someone's like, oh, no, we chose to go with somebody else.
Right. Yeah.
It just wasn't the right fit.
Kind of going more to the present where we are today, you have your business, Rare Perspective. Yeah. You took the leap. Yeah. You took that jump, and I kind of want to go into the kind of inside story, if you don't mind.
Let's do it.
That leaving your job, leaving the security of that paycheck.
Mercy.
The thoughts of what other people might think about you for going on this creative journey that you don't want to be, a broke artist. You don't want to be a broke musician or whatever. Right. The stigma. Yeah. How did you overcome that?
Okay. Cleveland, first things first, you ask phenomenal questions. This is a great question.
This is genuine curiosity, man. Like
all right, so how did I overcome the fear of being like, that broke entrepreneur, that typical, that Tommy, if you will.
Yeah, exactly.
Tommy's a reference to a show called Martin.
He had a job.
He had a job. He had a job. But, it's like, oh, man, what you do? Oh, I'm an entrepreneur. Like there's always that stigmatism. Yeah. So how did I overcome that? It was rough because honestly, like my parents did not initially believe in me. Like they believe in me, but they have their preferences. It's like, Evan, you have a college degree. You have, a job that pays well. You don't have to worry about anything. Why leave all of that to take a chance? And it really came down to the fact that I was noticing some things in the corporate space where people were getting terminated. Now, I've always done my best to work with the most integrity and to the fullest of my potential, everything with excellence. But when I saw how people were being terminated on the spot, or, whether they're being terminated over the course of a month or 2 weeks, whatever it was, you can be fired at any moment, and the moment you're fired, you're back to, I guess, the position where you can be an entrepreneur. And because I was in a space where I did not really enjoy what I was doing, I just knew how to do it well. that kind of gave me the drive to, I'm looking for it. We're in the studio. I'm looking for a lanyard that had my old job on it. I don't see it, but I'm working on a book where I talk about how that lanyard was actually the noose that was lynching my potential every day that I would make that 1.5-hour drive to Fairfax. Because I'm going to a space where I do not enjoy it. And I have all of this potential within me that's just kind of being stored up, ready to be used. But I'm spending 10 to 12 hours of my day providing that potential and that energy to someone else to fulfill their dream. So like, I no longer, I was uneasy. I was uncomfortable. I started to hate what I was doing, and I did not like that space. It wasn't a healthy space. I was depressed emotionally. It was driving me to a place where I wasn't happy. I started to lack gratitude towards the things that I should be grateful for. And I just knew that it was catastrophic for the person that I am. Some people can enjoy the private sector, working for other individuals, but it just wasn't for me. There was an event that occurred as well, where a friend of mine lost his best friend at the age of 37. He was an entrepreneur though. And at the funeral, I saw the impact that he was able to have as a result of moving in his purpose and intentionally helping people in the way that he was tailor-made to do. And I was like, if this man can do this by the age of 37 and have this legacy and have these, the thousands of people who were there, at the funeral who truly missed him, who were truly helped by him, what could I do, in that amount of time? Because I knew that where I wasn't really making an impact. I was a statistic. I was a number that could be crossed off and replaced in 2 weeks.
Right.
And that was kind of what kind of gave me the fire to just look at the people who would be like, Evan, I don't think it's a good idea, and be like, you know what? It may not be a good idea, Jenny, but you don't like your job. You really don't. And even if I don't get paid as much starting off, I'm going to be pursuing something that I love, that excites me. And when you're doing something that you're passionate about, something that you truly love, when you do it, you're doing it at the best level. I all the time I over deliver, but I'm over delivering because I love what I'm doing. Now, if I'm in a space where I hate what I'm doing, I'm probably not going to over deliver for you. So it kind of works both to the corporate side's favor, because you don't want employees who are just working for a paycheck, because you're not going to get that much out of them. I got to a point where I was literally just doing what was asked of me. And that's never really a spot you want to be in. I mean, I know it sounds like, what do you mean you're just doing what's asked of you? But if I'm working for someone, if I'm trying to fulfill an initiative for somebody, I want to do more than that. Right, I want to find holes. I want to find needs that haven't been assessed and plug those. And I do that for myself in my business and for those who I work with. And it got to the point where, as a result of starting my own business, my parents seeing the success that I've had, I'm fortunate to not have to have struggled so far. They're more supportive now than they ever have been before, especially with my dad being an entrepreneur. I think the fear that he had was that some of the struggles that he experienced, I would have to go through. And although they were hard times, he was just trying to prevent me from having those types of scabs in my life. But I couldn't do it anymore, bro.
That you want the sign off, or the approval of the most, might not be the people you need to talk to, because they care about you so much.
I got that all the time.
They don't want you to get hurt. And I want to get your thought on this. This is catered to two types of people, maybe more. You might slide in there. You have the young professional who may be coming out of grad school, college, undergrad, whatever, and is trying to find their place with a career.
Okay.
Excuse me. Then you have someone who's already, let's say, mid-career or even late career, who has been going through the motions, or maybe they had a zeal at first and now it's gone. And there's something else that they think about all the time. As far as exiting or pursuing, do you say go for the check first to fund initiatives? Or stay with the check to fund initiatives? Or do you say go all in?
There's 3 approaches that were presented to me when I asked that same question to my mentor. And I still stand by them. Those 3 approaches are, you can burn the bridges, right? And just leave your job and figure out how to make things work, right? And they kind of tailor towards who you are as a person. Like if you're a problem solver, that may work for you, burning the bridges and just going for it, like grind mode every day, 16 hours, if that's what you want to do. And if you know that's how you can operate, do it, but don't do it and have regrets, or don't do it and have any doubt. You have to be able to make that decision and stand by it and not look back. Like that's just the lifestyle for that season. So there's that approach. There's also the approach of saving, you know, your rainy day fund to cover 6 months of expenses or however long you think it would take you to get off the ground. Saving that up while developing, you know, this warm list of leads and developing a network of people who you know would be willing to invest in you once you make the leap, and moving that way. Mm-hmm. And then there's also the people who want to have simultaneous execution. So by that, I mean, you're working your corporate job and you're working your side hustle that you're passionate about at almost equal time, if not equal value, until you reach the point where you can just seamlessly leave. Now, for me, I kind of did the second option where we had some funds that were saved. And it's a blessing to be married because, you know, my wife, she has a full-time job. So if things do get sketchy, it's not like I'm just on my own. But I went with the route of saving up funds, like getting the gear that I needed, using my job to fund whatever tools would be needed for me to be successful. And then when I got to a point where it was like, the timing is really what made it work. Through the Black to Business series, I was getting opportunities to, you know, 5-6x my monthly income in a month or two. And I was like, if I stay at this job, I'm not going to be able to take advantage of these opportunities. And I'm going to miss out on the funds that I would be able to receive to then, you know, go forward with my entrepreneurial career.
Right.
And what I decided was to take a leap. I didn't have all the funds that I wanted, but I had enough where if things got sketchy, I think I'd be okay. And literally I made the decision in 2 weeks. Like I wasn't expecting to leave my job until June.
So how long have you been full time?
Since March.
Since March.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's pretty recent.
It is recent, fam. It's very fresh.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah.
And the Black to Business series that released in
Black History Month, February. Didn't even finish it, bro.
Right.
I dropped 4 episodes. So that's the power of it, right? I dropped 4 episodes and I was able to generate enough connections to have funding and income up until like July, August.
How did that work?
Bro,
how did that go down?
So like just full. All right. So case study number 1 was like 2 or 3 episodes. I think by the second episode in, I think I released 5 episodes because I was doing 5 episodes. And I'm hungry, bro.
I feel it. And this picked it up for sure.
So by the second or third episode, I got a phone call from a nonprofit agency or organization. And they're like, hey, can you do corporate headshots? And can you do kind of like a testimonial style recap video of our training that we're going to be doing for our HR team? I was like, yeah, that's definitely in my wheelhouse. I can do that. And I'm looking up comps on what the budget would be. And it was something like almost like $10K, right? Now I'm used to receiving like $3,500 a month for my corporate job. So to make $10K in like literally a full day of work,
right?
I was like, I'm getting paid on value, not time, right? Because if you try to make $10,000 in the hourly amount of work that was required, it wouldn't make sense.
Right. Exactly.
But it's the value that I'm providing. So that's when that shift of shading time for money,
that mindset
versus shading value for dollars,
yes,
kind of clicked for me. I was like, okay, so I'm providing them $10,000 worth of value, and they respect that. Let's keep the same energy. So that was the first case. This was like second or third episode because I'm releasing it to Facebook. I'm releasing it to Instagram. It's on YouTube, and I have my small network of, you know, loyal friends and family members who are pushing it for me. And somehow, some way, the connection came through where one of a friend of a family or a friend of a friend recommended me for the job because they saw that the series was out there. And when, you know, Facebook has those recommendation posts. Yeah. Someone who's like, who would you recommend? The HR director was like, who would you recommend to do the following tasks for my business? I want to invest in a black entrepreneur. Just so happened that the timing for my Black to Business series, dropped when she was looking for what she needed, right? Yeah, man. Nothing but God. So like that was the first time that this shift happened, where I saw the key paramount, I guess, changes that I needed to make in my business model. One, because I was still charging people on like an hourly rate, not a value-based rate. That's another thing to talk about. But that was the first case. And then I had another person who I actually filmed in the Black to Business series, Chef Chu, episode 1.
Yep.
His product is dropping into Whole Foods in the 43 stores in the Northern California area. And I don't know when this will be released, but by the time it is released, I'm confident because they're dropping on July 8th. Within that time frame, he'll also have contracts with other large organizations who will be funding his product in hospitals and conference centers and things like that around the world. And because of that, he needed a crowd fund. He needed a campaign to continue raising money so that he can continue producing his product.
Right.
And he was like, well, Evan came through. He filmed this series. He seems like he knows what he's talking about when it comes to ideation, social media strategy, and producing content. Let me bring him onto my team so that, I can get what I need to have a successful campaign. And I got a call from him not that long after and was like, hey, I want to bring you on as needed. Him being my client to produce the content and the game plan for what he needs. And that was another source of income. And I want to be raw. So to give you numbers, like to go out there for 2 weeks was like $10,000, right?
Wow.
So that was my second nearly $10,000 check.
Right.
And I mean, I probably worked like 5 days, So I'm looking at my old job, and mind you, they're a startup. So like for any other organization, your numbers would be larger than that.
Yeah.
I'm looking at these numbers. I'm looking at how things are working and this new lifestyle, this new approach. And I was like, I can get with this. And within that 2 weeks, I was like, with $20K, it wouldn't make sense for me that would take me, what, 3,500? That's almost 7 months of work? No. Let me do math really quick. That's like 4 months of work. Every 2 months would be 7,000.
You're right.
No.
Wait, say that one more time?
No, man. 3,000 times 7 is 21,000.
21,000.
So it's like 6 months of work.
That you made in?
A total of like 9 days. So that was case study number 2. Case study number 3, right before I went to Iceland, which is another experience. I almost died 3 times. I'd love to be back on the show if you want to talk about that.
Yeah,
but
stories with Evan.
My brother proposed to his girlfriend at the time, and I filmed their proposal video because I'm just trying to be a good brother, So I filmed it and I released it on YouTube. It immediately got like 15,000 views or 1,500 views, which is a lot for me because I just created my YouTube channel the month before for the Black to Business series. It wasn't like I had a ton of subscribers. And the person who we filmed it at their house, he actually worked for the town that I grew up in Chesapeake Beach. And he was like, hey, we need content. Our stuff is outdated. It's old. It doesn't reflect what people should be experiencing when they get here. Would you mind coming down, kind of assessing what we need and put together a strategy for how we can do a turnover or, a turnaround for our content? And by the way, my wife's a lawyer and her law firm needs work too. So when I had the confirmation of like these 4 or 5 different jobs that I knew I would have on lock over the summer.
Yeah.
I didn't really have that much of, let me not lie on the air. I was still nervous, but it took away the initial nervousness that I felt, like that heavy weight that you feel, knowing that I had the security of having these jobs confirmed. Now, when I put in my resignation letter, though, I had a knot in my stomach because I was leaving everything that I knew. Yeah. I was leaving the comfort. I was leaving the security. And I knew that when I handed it over, I'd be responsible for every check to provide for my wife and I for the rest of our lives. Yeah. So it was that handoff, that trade-off was big. But I looked at the upside and I looked at the past experiences and the new experiences, and the new experience far outweighed the past.
Man.
That's how I was able to do it.
That's incredible, honestly. I feel like once you get that taste of like, wait,
yeah, bro,
I'm getting paid for it. The value I provide, I'm like tripling my income.
Yeah.
and I'm enjoying it,
Right.
there's like no way that you can go back to the lifestyle
I don't know if I could work a corporate job, bro.
ever again.
I mean, I'm 3
honestly.
months out, so I'm not trying to sound like I have it all figured out, but it's
No,
really
but
hard to
yeah,
imagine
it's-
sitting at a desk.
Wow, that's incredible. All right, man. To start wrapping things up,
Yeah.
I always like to ask these questions because the answers I get are just phenomenal. People are just great thinkers.
Okay.
So imagine we're on a highway, we're driving down, and you got billboards on the highway. People still invest in billboards and stuff.
Yeah.
And it has something there that everyone that drives past it, they look at the billboard, and you own that billboard, and there was some message that you want everyone to know, whether it's for life, for whatever they're doing, that you want them to read when they go on that highway. What would it be? What would you tell the people?
Well, let's just go to my wallpaper because it's my motto that I live by. I guess I have my billboard on my phone.
Yeah.
First, value people. Okay. Think of ways to add value to people. Look for ways to add value to people. Add value to people. And encourage others to add value to people.
Okay.
So the billboard would simply say, add value to people.
That's good.
That's the motto, bro.
That's the motto. That's how you win.
That's what I want my legacy to be. Evan added value to people.
Awesome. And I'm gonna steal this question from one of my favorite podcasts, Short Long. Where he asks, if you had a time machine, and you could go back to, I don't know, high school Evan, college Evan, about to get a job in cybersecurity Evan, I don't know. What would you tell him? Like, you go back, like, bro, what would you say to yourself? Go back in time.
You always hear people say when you're younger, dream big. If you just believe it, you can achieve it. And I would hear that, but I wouldn't take it to heart. Like, I always had doubts. I always had, that self-doubt, my hesitations, my reservations for certain things. I would just tell myself failure is okay. Embrace failing. I know it's a common thing for people to say, but you have to believe that you're a boss, but you have to back it up with the work required to do so. Yeah. So it would just be, you need to stay ready because great things are in store for you. That's the message that I would say.
Stay ready.
Stay ready. It's 3 phases: not ready, getting ready, and staying ready. So stay ready.
Gotcha. Appreciate it, Ev.
Hey, man. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Yeah, always.
All right, cool.
All right, I hope y'all enjoyed that episode with Evan Morsell. I know I learned a lot from this conversation. And if you're thinking about leaving your 9-to-5 or have any questions about business, lifestyle, feel free to reach out to Evan or I. Our social media handles will be linked below in the description. Or you could go to the website, buildyourvision.co, and check out the resources there. Just remember to rate and review if you enjoyed the episode. That helps us on the statistic side of things in the podcast world. So if you really enjoyed it, leave a rating, 5 stars if you may, and a review so people could get a glimpse, a little peek into what this show is about and what it means to you. I would greatly appreciate that. Until next time, guys, keep building your vision every single day, like I always say. Peace.